flying start to the season, carrying on from their practice match form, and they got their flyer in the first quarter when they kicked 8 goals to 2 for a 41-point lead over Fitzroy, and they eventually ran out winners by 39 after the Lions made something of a comeback in the second half. But the Demons, with 5 goals to 2 in the last quarter, steadied for a very convincing win. 3 goals each to Flower, Williams and Moore for Melbourne, and for Fitzroy, Barwick kicked 5, 2 each to Stevens and Harris. It's a welcome back to ABC television football to former Carlton great David McKay, and a great start to Melbourne.
Yes, Tim, it was a great start. Really, Melbourne controlled the game right from the first bounce. The player that really set them going was Stephen Turner in the ruck. He knocked the ball out of the centre consistently and gave Melbourne first use of the ball. That gave young Healy an opportunity to capitalise on the control that Melbourne had, and they drove the ball forward continually. Melbourne were also very good up forward. They had 10 players who kicked goals today, and when you've got that many avenues to goal, it makes it very easy for a side to have control. Down the other end of the ground, really Fitzroy were in trouble. They didn't really have any real avenues to goal apart from Conlon, from Barwick, who kicked 5 goals, but he really played a lone hand. The only other player that put up some sort of resistance today for Fitzroy was Roos, who played very well at centre-half back. But really it was a disappointing performance from Fitzroy, and really Melbourne looked like they could go on with it this year. They've got some good recruits from interstate, and a very promising start from Melbourne.
Spalding reported, I noticed. Did you cast an eye over that one?
I didn't see that Spalding was reported. Two players were reported, both for time wasting in very similar incidents. And it's obvious that the umpires this year are going to take a very tough line on it. The incidents were such that after a player took a mark, his opponent slung him to the ground, and both were reported. So it's good to see the umpires taking a tough line on that activity.
Well, the Demons, a couple of years ago, when the Barassi dream ended in disaster, with Melbourne really making no progress over 5 years, looked to be in desperate trouble, didn't they? You think they could be up there knocking on the door?
I think they're certainly back in business. I think last year they were a bit unfortunate with Northey taking over perhaps late in the season and didn't get them together for a good pre-season. But there's no doubt this year Northey's really toughened them up. The way that they attacked their opponents right from the first bounce today, and the same as they did in the Panasonic Cup game against Hawthorn, was indicative of the sort of play that I think Melbourne have been working on. I think if they can keep that up, they can really put pressure on some of the top sides, and the way that they take the ball away from those contests and set up good play up in the forward line certainly looks good for the Demons this year.
What about the Blues? Doesn't look too hot.
Well, I'm not so concerned about the Blues after getting the axe. So
is that right? It's like that, is it?
Well, not really. No, I'm still very interested in Carlton, and it was certainly a disappointing start. I was hoping this year, like other years, their notoriously bad pre-season form would continue on, but and what happens is they usually lose all their pre-season games and win the first game, but unfortunately this year it wasn't to be.
The Swan, David McKay, with his report from the MCG, where Melbourne beat Fitzroy by 39 points, and a few comments on Carlton's loss to Hawthorn at Princes Park by 45.